Welcome everyone, and we are in another number 10, John. We're hitting double digits here with the crypto conspiracy, and the news just keeps flowing. I've been hitting a lot of positive comments, and I've made actually my weekly perspective on a couple of emails out of several that I received about people that are still a bit concerned about this overall financial system, which you and I are, of course, and also how the crypto fits into the whole big picture. And I'm not trying to take sides. I'm trying to just do a discovery. And as we go further down the rabbit hole, we discover more. And I'm going to get to that in a minute. But before I do, just want to kind of give an overview of the markets because, I'm anticipating the people that might say, what's going on in the markets. You didn't even talk about it. All you talked about was, this conspiracy theory you guys have. So first up is the markets, and I'm going to share screen. So the markets are in disarray on the precious metals. I talked to one of the wholesalers and also one of the physical hedge funds that I know quite well. Nobody is selling physical. It's the paper players are pushing the stops on a lot of people that are on margin. Margin calls are going out. I said to my paid members and also publicly that I thought we might see the lowest print of the year, last trading day of the year. Looks like we're on board for that. There's not much support below the 2250 level. We're below that now. And the next stop could be 1850. I don't think it's going that low. What I anticipate is a waterfall decline, a spike low, which you've seen time and time again in silver. That spike low could almost make up a number, go to 1980, and then it reverses and it closes that day at 2080 for an example. I'm not giving exact numbers. I'm trying to give the idea. I'm hit a low. I'm not trying to make excuses for the metals. If you look at Twitter, a lot of discouraged people are just giving up. And the mining shares, John, as we both know, are just getting creamed today. That's a couple things. One, it follows the price in a manner of leverage to the metals themselves, and also it's tax loss selling. So people that are just, cleaning up their portfolios or whatever, selling and taking the loss or whatever. Some people probably selling and giving up, and that's, the way markets work. So do you want to add anything to our market commentary before we do big news on what's going on with Tether?
Yeah, I think, we're seeing tax loss selling. People are going to sell into losses. They'll get triggered out, and then we'll see it pop right back up. I think at the same time that we're talking about silver being down, everyone's looking at the stock market saying, how can the stock market still be hovering here? I posted this on my Telegram. Right December 2nd, CNBC, I believe it was $68 billion in stocks have been sold by CEOs across the country. So put that in perspective, that's $68 billion in sales. That's December 2nd CNBC article. December 10th CNBC article, we're having the largest stock buybacks in history. And what does that mean? That means the company is picking up debt, selling bond debt, and using cash from shareholders, buying their stock back. And who do you think they're buying that stock back from? The CEOs that are selling. Well, that just sounds like a wonderful deal, huh? So who loses in that game? The shareholders lose because shareholder cash goes towards purchasing the CEO stock who are selling like hotcakes, running out the door. Meanwhile, the average guy sees the stock market price, the Dow just sitting still saying, hey, John, silver's down and the stock market's holding right up. It's like, well, you should look behind the green curtain there because not everything is as it appears when it comes to the news. We know the news is fake in many areas, and that same premise of what they're broadcasting in business news should always be looked at and questioned. So it's fair to say that if there were no stock buybacks going on right now, and the CEOs were just selling, the stock market would be down probably 500, 600, 800 points. So that kind of balances it out. So if you're a silver holder and you feel the pain, just remember there's pain in other places. You just don't see it yet. And on At the same time, we've got weakness, of course, in the crypto area because of the uncertainty and regulation. So I see the markets as being pretty healthy right here because at the end of the day, the most important fundamental is obviously the printing by Powell, which is not slowed down, but we've got tax loss selling here, and let's see how that pans out, as well as management suppression and manipulation. So that makes my rum and Coke taste better.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. Very appropriate. I traded another thought, but I'm going to hold it because I really want to get back into the our main theme here, and that's crypto. So I'm going to show the screen again, and this is what I found yesterday. I sent it to you in the middle of the day. Called you up. U.S. States District Court, Southern District of New York. It gives us a case, and this is Matthew Anderson and Sean. I can't pronounce it, so I won't individually on behalf of other persons. Situated as a plaintiff versus Tether Holdings Limited, Tether Limited, Tether International Limited, Tether Operations Limited, Infinex Inc., and BFXNA Inc., and on it goes as defendants. So it's not just conjecture, it's not just conspiracy, John. We have a lawsuit against Tether in the Southern District of New York, and we will see where this goes. So I'd like comments on this. I think, I'm not saying we're totally vindicated, but going down the rabbit hole further, more things just keep becoming uncovered, do they not?
Yes, and this is a big one here because of the location, it being in the Southern District of New York. It could be handled with properly, or it could be handled improperly. We don't know, especially in that area there. But I think what's key about this coming out here is the fact that this lawsuit came out just as regulators are about to put the hammer down on crypto. They're going to have to come up with an answer here. So you've got the regulators in the corner here in the hot seat. They've got to come up with some regulation as to what they're going to do in the crypto space. And suddenly this lawsuit pops up. And what's going to come in this lawsuit here? I mean, I didn't go look into the deep details on this, but I found it interesting that this lawsuit popped up just as Tether and crypto regulations and the hearing just ended. I don't think these things are. I think these things are well timed. And we're watching a stage unfold here now. So we're going to get more out of that lawsuit, and I believe more is coming out this afternoon. But this is key. Who knows? Maybe they're going to. Maybe the lawsuits are going to give the regulators something to work with. Maybe it's going to give them a tool and kind of takes the pressure off of them making a decision when they've got a lawsuit coming that can directly affect and promote and support the decision as to whether they're going to regulate hard or regulate easy or not regulate at all.
Well said, John. I want to talk a little bit here, sidetrack slightly about FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. I had someone that very adult-like was a bit in disagreement with me, which is fine. I want everyone here to critically think, use their own brain, make their own decision. We're just providing information to the best of our human ability, not that we have a crystal ball, but John, just for the record, and I said this early on in series 1, 2, and 3, I looked at what John was sending me for quite some time before I said, look, I can't take it anymore. The pressure's building. You've just sent me too much fact for me to ignore it. The public needs to know this, whether they agree with us or not. Let them make that determination. Coming back to FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. There's an old adage that I learned early and the hard way in commodities trading, and the saying is, when in doubt, stay out. So, you want to go to FUD, go to FUD. What does that mean to me? It means I have doubt about the markets in total, precious metals, bonds, stocks, real estate, and cryptos, all of them. I'm a non-discriminatory fearmonger of all markets at this point in time.
Yeah,
which means absolutely. If you were going to ask me, and I can't give financial advice since I'm not a registered investment advisor, that often one of the best strategies to do if you're not sure, but you've got an idea that cryptos are ready to be, and I'm guessing on Cliff High, and Cliff is one of the most adult, straight up good guys I've ever met. I mean, he's been so good to me for years. But I think, and I haven't had time, I've been so much into this rabbit hole to look at everything. I usually don't miss too many of his videos, but I think he's saying, don't sell your cryptos, and that's a guess. So just let me say that's a guess. One of the best strategies in that situation where you're uncertain is to sell half. That way you can only be half right or half wrong. So it's like, I got all these paper profits in this crypto, that crypto, and that other one, and I got some losses on these, and I'm going to just take some profit. And again, you can only be half wrong that way or half right. It's a really good strategy. It really calms a lot of people from all the years that I have made that mention of that idea, because that way it's like, okay, look, I banked some stuff. I'm still a believer, but I relieve some of the pressure, because as an example, if BTC hits, I don't know, make up a number, 30, 20, maybe it's done today. I don't know. But let's say, as an example, it goes from the current price, I think it's around 49 or something, down to 39. And you took something off the table, then you have to, of course, make a decision. You want to put that half back in or not. So I don't want to belabor that point too much, John. I really want to go on to the next one. And that is something that just a little bit over my head. And that's why I'm so glad you're here to give me some guidance on this, because you've been studying this side of the crypto market much more than me, and now I'm involved, and I'm grateful for that. This came out of CoinCode Cap. We give the URL there. Tether becomes the official of Myanmar's shadow government. Tether becomes the official currency of Myanmar's shadow government for quote-unquote domestic use. Tell me more, John.
Well, this is the biggest story that the media is not covering. This is the biggest story in the world of finance, geopolitics, and the geostrategic moves that countries are making right now. It's not in the news. No one's talking about this. But first of all, I want to say this. Tether, let me read this headline here. There's a lot here. Tether becomes official currency of Myanmar's shadow government. Now, this is the first time the world is seeing crypto, stablecoin in this case, being used as a weapon. It's weaponized inside a shadow government that was ousted by the military for alleged voter fraud. Now, what I found interesting about Myanmar is that there's a very, very big human trafficking problem there. And Myanmar, the leadership there was, you can go online, Google this one here, was heavily supported by Obama and Hillary, heavily supported here. So once the president, who was removed by the military for voter fraud, they alleged, they removed her and they took over. Now she's a shadow government. I believe she's getting 6 years for inciting riots and unrest. But apparently the military says they had all the evidence that they used voting machines. Now I'm not going to name any voting machine names here, but when I saw I went back and looked back about 12 years on how much time Hillary and Obama spent, and I realized the two of them spent an immense amount of energy and time and resources to get her in as the president. And now we've got a military there. Now, this is interesting because there's some parallels here with voter fraud in the United States, voter fraud in Myanmar, which used to be called Burma for those of you that are historical World War II people here. So Burma, which is now Myanmar, once the military removed this leader, she decided to form a shadow government and has declared Tether as their own currency. Now, I find that very, very interesting, which tells me had she not been removed, that Tether would be the official currency there in Myanmar. Now, the parallels here. The parallels is we got Myanmar, which is dealing with voter fraud, voter machine fraud. We've got Hillary in Myanmar, Hillary, the election here in 2016, and all the voter fraud allegations, which still have not been completed yet. I believe that's still in play based on some executive orders here. This is the first time we're seeing a shadow government use crypto and weaponizing it against an established military here. I believe this is going to have major implications here, and this model here is being watched by every foreign policy person in every government around the world as to how this is going to be handled. How are you going to handle this?
I'm sorry to stop you, but man, you made some pretty big accusations, and I'm going to play devil's advocate a bit. So can you walk me down a little further why this is, weaponized and being used on the dark side. I mean, I'm not disagreeing. I just want to understand it more.
Yeah, well, let me pull this up here. Military court since ousted leader to 4 years. You look at the headlines here. I thought the headlines, I pulled it up. If you type in Myanmar and currencies, it's interesting reading the headlines from different news organizations. Cryptocurrency Tether is now official currency for Myanmar's anti-junta group. That's from Hindustan Times. And by the way, to me, all media is questionable. So when I read a headline, it doesn't mean I buy it. I read headlines, I gather my data, do research on who's writing this. And so this is from Business Insider. The first one says cryptocurrency Tether is now official currency for Myanmar's anti-junta. Okay. This is from Business Insider. Myanmar's shadow government defies central bank by accepting Tether as official currency. Now let's change this out here. My shadow government defies central bank. Now, what if that's reverse? What if someone decides we're going to use Tether and Bitcoin as an official currency and we're going to defy Jerome Powell? There's a lot of people that would like that, but then we're dealing with policy, and we're talking about governments and how they manage things. The response is going to be different from crypto versus crypto or Bitcoin versus Tether. This is from Al Jazeera. Myanmar shadow government approves crypto as official currency. How does the shadow government approve Tether crypto as an official currency? I mean, we're going into uncharted territory here. I mean, for the last couple of weeks, we talked about Evergreen and Tether coming out of, and Tether, hasn't been audited in the United States. Now, I'm going to go off into tinfoil hat land here right now, speculation land, and for some people I work with and work for, I'll just say this is what I see coming here. This here is going to turn into a major event. And the fact that this is being thrown out there right now, this is going to affect the regulators. The regulators have to be looking at this right now because we got the lawsuit coming. We've got some sort of audit going and at Tether. And now suddenly we turn on the news and Tether is being weaponized. Wait a second. These guys are using Tether to basically overthrow and undermine another government and their currency. This is big news. This is really big news.
It is, John, and let me just compliment you for that added emphasis, because those three that you read from Al Jazeera, International Business Times, I actually used to write for them, and another one or two, that just gives me comfort that we've got some substance to it. Not that we didn't, but I just like to 1, 2, 3 verify, re-verify, and verify again. So let me hand it back to you. Continue on.
Well, I thought the anti-junta groups in Myanmar using Tether to fund resistance. It's like, now we're getting into that, freedom fighter. Everyone's freedom fighter is different. Depends on where they're at here. Now, I've done some research here in fact, I knew about this a couple years ago. Myanmar is a major human trafficking hub. And, we talked about the relationship with Bitcoin and Tether and just the elements from the executive order and human trafficking and human rights abuses here. Myanmar is a major hub for human trafficking in Southeast Asia here. And that's really important. So when I looked at the headlines from the crypto organizations, the money organization, they just said Tether's been officially labeled, the currency for this government. I thought, wait a second, this is the government that was thrown out for voter fraud. You can see as we get closer to the crypto focused publications, they pretty much take out the element of reality of what's really happening here. We're not talking about just a shadow government. We're talking about a shadow government that was removed by the military for voter fraud. Now, you can look at voter fraud and say, oh, well, Trump voter fraud, we never proved it, this and that. It doesn't matter. We're at the point to where if the military took action, it's highly likely that they probably had the evidence, because knowing that they're in military positions and not voted in positions there, that the results that they could get coming back from not being correct are going to be much harsher than a politician just trying to overthrow a government here. So I looked at this and all my red lights went on, because I thought, why is this in the news right now, right when regulators demanded Tether basically bring up their audit, show proof of funds of what they have, show what they have in reserves, and then we've got this lawsuit in New York against Tether, and now we have this. It's almost as if all the stars have aligned against Tether, and we're about to see this go to the next level. Now, another scenario, this is a scenario I shared this morning with the group I work with, is this. I said, I will not be surprised if this situation here goes out of, I guess you could, what is out of control with stablecoin Tether? It's going to be interesting to watch this story here. I think there's going to be a lot of lessons taken from this, and I think that policymakers in DC are going to be watching this. I believe they're going to form policy around what happens here. This could be an example of what not to do with crypto. First get thrown out of office for voter fraud by the military, and then turn around, come back, and try to zap the economy with the crypto against a military government that has guns. And like I said, we've never been here before. I think the U.S. government and the policymakers, they're going to be watching this closely. And if this goes sideways and it just goes, I mean, it's going to, they have to take some sort of action here. They can't let it go. Because why? Because Tether's being printed where? In Hong Kong, which is another country next door. So you got outside banking forces here trying to take over this country here. And I think we're going to see human rights and human trafficking involved with this. You know, this is the backstories no one's going to talk about. So what are some scenarios? I think that this could potentially end up being on the list of things to do for regulators. And let's take it one step farther. Let's take out Tether and put Bitcoin in there, because they're so closely related. If this gets to the point to where they realize, hey, this is a threat to the economic system. I believe it was, we have a clip here of Hillary saying Bitcoin is a threat to the reserve currency system, which really surprised me. She made that statement, but I'm reading the same language being used over here. So there's a setup coming here, and this Tether thing, there's only one word to use here. Crypto is officially weaponized and used against governments. That changes the whole game. That makes certain elements of people attacking country, they could potentially be targets of a military taking kinetic action against an offensive force trying to topple their government. This is a serious thing. This is really big news. I think the entire crypto community should be watching this story here, and it's going to be interesting how they handle this. I believe is going to reverberate, and it's going to come back and be used, and probably closely watched here by the U.S. government, military, and all the people in D.C.
Thank you, John. I was going to talk about Basel III, but I'm going to skip that for now. I want to go to my next and final slide, and we can talk about this. First of all, you sent me this, but it's breaking news, but it doesn't have any, I can't verify it. Can you tell me the source on this?
This is Telegram. This is from just an independent intel guy I have this morning. And this is, I think this is behind also. I go on because I read all the Russian and Ukrainian publications here. This is a little farther than it appears. With there's talk about, I think Putin came out this morning and said they're worried about NATO moving missiles to the Russian border. Well, I think that Vladimir Putin and Russia have already anticipated this and have probably already pre-positioned their defense and offense to this situation. I mean, the one thing that Russia has been talking about lately is changing their entire policy on missile defense, and actually considering, and whether it's rhetoric or not, I don't know, but whether considering the fact of the possibility of using nuclear weapons as an offensive preemptive strike to protect themselves before NATO missiles end up by their border. So this is another really serious situation people need to be looking at here. I'm looking at it, watching it closely. Also in Ukraine, look, there's been a lot of talk about this. I read about it. It's never going to be covered in the news, and that is a lot of quote unquote hacking going on that's based in Ukraine that we don't see. I mean, it's important to know about the government of Ukraine there went through a regime change in 2014, and that was overseen by Obama and Biden. So there's a lot more going on here. I believe that the situation in Ukraine, I was just watching some videos of just a lot of heavy equipment being moved, tanks, missiles, more fuel tanks, just the typical large scale movement coming down to the area there. But I think we're going to see Ukraine in the headlines here between now and December 21st, and it could potentially have an effect on the stock market and precious metals.
Okay, John, I'm going to take the mic for a moment because I've been looking at more from the cybersecurity side for quite some time and writing it in my private work. So here's a couple thoughts, and you already said it, that I've had. Number one is cyber warfare. What about the obvious? The United Nations has now come up with this group, I forget the name of it, or I would give it, that they have the authority to get a hold of a server bank, GoDaddy or one of those type, and say, take down this website. It's, and I forget their words, but in other words, it's a cancel culture, and the UN now has the authority, or claims to have the authority, and the salute and three bags full type, like a lot of these online services that host websites say, yes, sir, I don't need to see the lie. All I need is your phone call. So websites that are not on the politically correct slant are being taken off the web. That's number one. Number two is how much data is dependent on the web. And what most people don't know, and I got this off of, I think, Florida Marquee this morning at, my 4 a.m. wake up call, that, these giant cables across the ocean that no one really talks about, but that's what's really going on as far as getting data from, one continent to another continent. So just a little bit of, wire cutting, and I'm using that as a metaphor. Of course, these are huge, but nonetheless, it could be interrupted. The other one, of course, is what we've already seen with some of the meat packing plants, gas pipeline providers, and all the stuff that we've already seen on these cyber attacks. And what do they want to be paid in? They don't want Fed notes. They want Bitcoin as their payment system when these systems are hacked. So my overall theme here, John, is that although the Russia thing, I'm not going to discount it at all, I'm also saying, could it be a look out war, where what the real war is, the most destructive, is taking down this cyber situation from the dark side and causing havoc because the internet is not functioning fully.
Yeah, I think that's part of many other areas. I mean, I think the big news that came out that no one's talking about is the IMF and 10 countries simulating a cyber attack on the global financial system. Well, every time we have these giant drills, to protect us, they somehow magically go live. So this was the IMF and 10 countries simulate an attack on the financial system. And the aim of the Israel-led war game is to minimize potential damage in such a scenario, such as market chaos or a run on banks. This is Reuters. So they're wargaming the financial system here. Right there, only one thing should come to your mind: physical silver and physical gold. War game on my stocks. I'm in the markets. I could definitely be affected. I've had to sit back and go over scenarios here. What about this? What if this happens here? There's going to, like I said before, and I say it all the time, there's not going to be a warning. Now, right here, this is a warning here of some sort. Do we know when? No. I have a couple ideas, but a global cooperation is being sought in wake of recent high-profile cyber attacks on large companies. To your point, what you just said, I see a lot of this hacking going on here, and of course, my red light goes on. I don't think it's just random hacking. This we could find out down the road. This is part of a money laundering operation. You're gonna get hacked on this day. I need 5 million. Okay.
Yeah.
You won't. It's like, all right, I'll know. what's your Bitcoin wallet? I mean, I don't know. We don't know this, but there's a lot of crime going out there right now. I mean, I thought it was odd. I didn't know that people negotiated like this. I read some of the stories of some of the executives that were saying, no, we're not going to pay this, and suddenly the money just went out. And so there's a debate going on there. And once again, it always appears, oh, this pipeline has been hacked, and it looks more and more like they're going after grid and infrastructure hacking. But there's more to those stories. I think if people dig down more, they'll see something there. You'll see a pattern. There's always a pattern of these things here. There's too many major events coming to head right now. This war game, though, here on the global financial system just tells me one thing. It's like the global reset button. My computer just froze. Well, let's hit the global reset button here. It's a war game. And that's how I see this. I don't see this. This is not good. This is simply not good. Unless you're holding up physical silver and physical gold. For crypto, it could be, so-and-so got hacked. They're down. They're gone. Well, you're out, and if they black out the system, if this war game goes live, or if things just happen and we never hear about this war game again, nobody knows what's going to happen with their crypto. I mean, we've seen it. Anyone who's done any research, where an entire exchange just vanishes, all the money vanishes, and the president or the CEO is gone, and they're found in the mountains, with a lot of Bitcoin, a lot of cash, and a good plastic surgeon. So we don't know. I mean, if this happens here, this is the scenario I've been talking about. I've been talking about things coming up. This just came out. I was saying there's going to be a blackout. And all of a sudden, this came out December 10th. And I've been talking about a blackout here for the last 2 or 3 weeks because all the chatter is out there. You can see it's coming. And that's why for all the people that are on my Telegram, I've just been telling people, make sure your foundation is set that physical silver and gold first, right there. Just something like this happens, it's not going to be good. If you look at Bitcoin, the weakness coming into Bitcoin right now, the story that we talked about, the conspiracy, I think this may relate. Who was it? I think it was Michael Saylor the other day said, sell all the gold in the world and get $11 trillion and put it all in Bitcoin. I'm like, yeah, Vegas, dude. There you go. 11 trillion on Vegas. Let it ride. There's only 20 million coin, 7 billion people, 20 million coin. That'll be a good one. That would make him because multi-trillionaire, I think. But anyhow, and then later on I heard, okay, what was the other one? Sell all gold. Gold's in big trouble. Gold's not in big trouble. It's gold. That's as long as we have Powell doing his job and the regulators doing their job, it only appears to be in trouble because we know one thing. The central banks have been accumulating for 10 years straight at a record pace. They haven't slowed down. Their goals are always 10, 20, 30, 40 years out here. And it almost appears as if the Bretton Woods system is being restarted, rejiggered, leading up to Basel III here. So I'm concerned about these cyber attacks and these hacks. I believe they're all connected and orchestrated. I sit here and watch things and monitor worldwide here. And to me, it looks like the entire financial system around the world is being set up. And there's no more time. Oh, well, John, silver's going down. Shouldn't it be going up? It's like, well, if you believe that the spot price is real, then buy silver because it's down. If you believe that it's really only worth $22 an ounce, then maybe you ought to go to usdebtclock.org and see what the real paper to silver price is. I believe it's $2,900 per ounce. So it all depends on where you stand here. But any attack on the financial system here is just going to be, everything's going to shut off. I mean, if you have a Tesla and the grid goes down, you're just screwed. You're not going to be able to go to the gas station and fill up a 1-gallon tank of gas and walk back and put gas in your Tesla to get yourself home. If there's no electricity, you're off the grid, and so there's a lot of things coming here. But I think, and I've said this before, I may have said it on one of the videos, I shared this on my Telegram, and that is, there we go. There it is. Yeah, look at that right down there. And that is, I felt that there were some key dates happening in December between December 11th and December 21st. And it's delivering. There's a lot of stuff coming right now. They're definitely delivering, and it's pretty exciting to see how things are starting to unfold here in the volatility and crazy department. It's all crazy. I probably shouldn't be laughing at some of the things I talk about, but since I talk about these all day long, it's sometimes the only thing I can do is laugh.
Yeah, I think you got to keep some semblance of humor in this wackadoodle world. Well, I'm going to go ahead and close us out there. I will take the final word today, John, and thank you for your time as always. And I know you get about as much sleep as me, so thank you for continuing on. I just want to, summarize it with Santa Claus that said, the cyber attack would make the COVID look like a mere inconvenience. I'll tell you what, why that guy is still standing, I don't know. But anyhow, we have some more interesting, in fact, almost, and this is my take, we've discussed offline, I think it's almost as big, if not bigger, than what we're discussing here, which is huge because there's so much momentum behind the cryptos right now. But there's something that's a real asset that's vitally important. And there's been something that's gone on with it for quite some time. And you again pointed it out to me, and I think we're going to have the time to examine that in full probably next year. But I don't want to get off this rabbit trail, this rabbit hole that we're going down, because I agree. I think before the end of the year, we may witness, I don't know if we're going to get a blackout, a cyber attack, or whatever, but it feels ominous at this point in time, especially with what keeps popping up. I mean, think about what we covered. We covered the lawsuit. We showed it. The Myanmar situation, old Burma. What's that connected to? Human trafficking and some of the political class that aren't necessarily on the up and up, at least in some people's opinion. And on it goes. And it's almost as if the news feeds are so rapid fire these days. I mean, I remember, 20 years ago when I wrote my, monthly issue, and I did videos in between, which I still do. But, it would be a week or so, and you get a lot of news and, filtered out what's most important, how they connect and all that. Now you get that amount of information in like a 6-hour time frame. I mean, it's really difficult in a way for anyone to stay on top of all these happenings. Okay, I'll call it. So that's it, John. I will, give you a softball back to you. Is there anything really vitally important? Try to keep it short that we didn't talk about or you want to emphasize.
Yeah, quick finish up here. Watch Myanmar, watch what happens. This story with Tether being weaponized and being used against a military government. This is a big story here. This will have implications here, and this will come across the United States. And if the rug gets pulled out from Tether with an audit, while this junta has adopted it, boy, it's curtains for that side of the game, and it's going to take it to the next level. Imagine that the U.S. regulators come in and say Tether doesn't have anything backing it, and you were part of a shadow government claiming that you used Tether. Your effort, to take over the government is finished.
Thank you for the wrap up, John. I can hardly wait for the next installment in this unfolding situation. And again, I want to emphasize, this is not just crypto. I mean, this thing, as I said, and John agreed with me, we're looking at all the markets are vulnerable here. There is probably not a real safe haven. I would agree with John, and I am biased. I think the safest place is money outside of the system. I mean, digital gold is just that, digital. But when you've got a stack of, precious metals or lumber, even for that matter, even soybean meal, you've got a tangible asset that has value regardless of what happens in the financial markets, whether they are blacked out, attacked, or let's say temporarily closed, because all those things, as bizarre as they sound, look like that's a potential that is possible coming up probably in the not too distant future. So I'll leave it there, John. I'll have you back soon. Thank you again for all that you do for us. We get a lot of positive feedback on, on our exchanges between you and I. going through what's probably one of the most interesting times in the world ever. So thank you.
One more thing, as you mentioned about censorship and media, this is really interesting. I'm on Telegram, and I think 1,200 people followed my Telegram in about a 3 or 4 day period. It's incredible. Trying to follow up with all the questions. If you left me questions, I am following up on every single one that I can. But if you're not on Telegram, I encourage you to get on Telegram, and I'll tell you why. Because I believe it's called the Justice Minister in Germany, the Justice Minister basically said Telegram is a bad platform to be upon. Why? Because people on there are talking about anti-COVID, oh, okay. So it's bad because people ask questions. People may want to debate. Apparently, if you even debate it, they don't want Telegram in there. Well, I love Telegram. Telegram is great. It's worldwide. It's simple to use. Anybody can use it, and you can communicate there, and you don't have to worry about the overlords staring down at you, and blocking you out. And so, yeah, I encourage people to get on Telegram.
So where do we find you on Telegram, John?
Go on Telegram and look up Silver is Money. Silver is Money. And I just launched a new real estate channel last night. I had so many people ask me, because I made some comments in video 9 with David regarding real estate and my background. I had over 100 people email me regarding real estate. So I started Real Estate 911. That's on Telegram also. There's a comment section there, and I'm just sharing my data with everyone. And gosh, overnight, about 240 people joined overnight, and a lot of real estate people. And it's great, useful information. It's not financial advice. You're gonna get a lot out of that. It's really worth going to. So Silver is Money and Real Estate 911 on Telegram.
All right, John. We'll stop there. Hardly wait to have you back soon. Thank you.
Yeah. Had fun.